Like, I think it is so imperative and it's important for us to travel. You've got to get out of like your everyday normal and you have to see things from a completely different perspective. There's so many different avenues of entertainment and artistry and dance these days, and you can completely make your own. You can literally these days use this to create your entire career by yourself. I don't want anyone who is trying to go for it to get discouraged, because you can overcome that. And I'm such an example by going to Asia. I was like, I'm going to figure this LA thing out. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure it out. And by the time I got in the groove of figuring things out, I got like the opportunity to go to Asia. I've always loved traveling. I never got to really travel far when I was young, but like to go somewhere, I've always like had that dream.
So tell us again what the invite was for China, and then just like tell us about your experience as a Black man in China.
Or, oh my goodness. This is like wrapping 8 years into into like 3 minutes. So Los Angeles, training group with Flex, and amazing choreographer, love him. And John is the one. He came up to me and was like, hey, there's an opportunity in Asia. There was an entertainment company in China or Taiwan that he knew that was doing a gig in China, and they wanted American dancers. And so he was like, would you be interested in going out? And I was like, yeah. I didn't know if it was like real or not. And so like we were talking about it. And like when he was like, no, like you can go out, they're looking to like do it soon, like within like a month and a half or two. And at this time, I wasn't working. I was staying with a friend. And so like I was just like, okay, what am I going to do from here? I'm going to take this opportunity to travel and to go and try this out. And it was originally offered to me for 3 months. So it's a 3-month contract. And basically what I was going to be doing was going around doing cover songs from America with a Chinese singer. In China at the time, the club life was like concert hall. Like I'm saying, they had like these rising stages, they had lights, like their club life was a whole different type of like ball game. And so we were performing at these places and I was like, okay, this is different. We're going to be performing at clubs. And in my mind in America, I'm like, okay, well, I've seen a couple clubs people performed at, but like, how are we going to do this? And so I get there and I was like, oh my gosh, just the way everything, it was like a concert. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And so we were learning Lady Gaga songs and Nicole Scherzinger songs, and we were performing these with this singer. She was everything, by the way. Like she was really, really good. And I traveled with her for 3.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And then after that, I ended up moving to Shanghai. And that's where I like spent the rest of my time with 2 years in Beijing, and then I left.
So it was supposed to be only 3 months, but you
stayed. It was supposed to be only 3 months, and it turned into 8 years.
Our friend Aaliyah, I think you were telling her that you wanted to save up more money and stuff out there. Was that?
Yeah. So being out there, you were being paid well as a dancer, like valued. Being on the proper type of visa and stuff like that was a whole thing too. All those logistics were out of the way when we had originally started. I was like, okay, this is great. Like I feel like I have a job over here and I'm able to like make good money and travel. I was more than willing to stay because I was excited for the adventure. We were going to so many different places and had possible opportunities in Hong Kong and things like that. So I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm doing more here than what I was doing in LA. So that's what allowed me to stay.
We keep talking about being open, and this is how you pursued passion, and this is how you kept passion in your life and then still got paid and everything. So like, it's important for us to remember to stay open and that it doesn't have to look a specific way.
Yes. Come on, Pysa.
So like,
come on.
Well, yes. That inspired me so much about your story, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and one of the ladies that I interviewed, she used to always tell me, be open, be open. I'd be like, what does she mean by that? But when I saw your story, I'm like, see, that's an example of being open, because you were passionate, you were doing what you loved every day,
I would definitely say you need to be open, you need to be optimistic and patient. If nothing else, I learned in Asia was patience, because you're in a totally different country, and being a Black guy in Asia at first was very, very, it was like, it wasn't that they were looking at me weird. It was more so just a fascination of like, wow, you guys, you exist. And, and keep in mind, I don't know anything about China. So I don't know what, I just think everybody new. But going to these small cities in Asia and going to these small little communities where all they see is each other. Of course, when we go there as entertainment, they're like, oh my goodness.
Mhm.
It's like they're seeing like a real life. I used to get called Kobe or Obama at the time because Obama was president. And so, at first I was like,
Oh,
but like after I was able to kind of like understand and started to pick up on the language a tad bit, I was able to kind of like be like, okay, but not everybody is like that, but I understand why.
yeah.
But just know for future when you see others, because you're going to see others out here that everyone don't look. So it was a lot of that, but it was interesting because I felt like people really for some reason took to me and listened and had like genuine warm conversations in Chinese and in English through Google Translate. That's another thing. When I first when I first got to China, there was just so much going on because we were supposed to have a translator and he was not there. It's like literally like somebody taking you and just sticking you somewhere and saying survive. Like that's the best way I can describe it. From getting your phones turned on to learning the language, transportation, money, food. I'm allergic to peanuts and fish, and I'm in Asia and I know everything's made with peanuts and fish. So one of the first words I learned was how to say no peanuts, male huashong. I think about it now and it's just, oh my gosh, I have so many like funny memories from just like learning the culture and being involved there. And I mean, that's why I stayed. It was interesting.
And then it looks like you started teaching, and that's where all the big choreography jobs came and stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. So that journey, gosh, like everything is just so like pieced out.
I know.
So working with the cover artist, I'm just gonna call her that because that's basically what she was. She was the cover artist doing, American songs. After the formula kind of started changing up a bit with how we were doing shows. And there was like a conflict of interest when it came to how the show should be and the design of the shows. Like it was getting to the point to where it was like, okay, I don't want to really do this anymore. And I was going to move back to LA, but I had some friends in Shanghai. When we go to different clubs, we would have different performers come and they would have dancers. And some of those dancers lived in Shanghai. So like, it was like this cool little community of people. We'd be like, oh, we'll meet up in Shanghai kind of thing. And so I was like, I'm going to move to Shanghai. I'm going to try it for 3 months. And if I don't like it, then I'll just go back to LA. And I went to Shanghai and pitched myself to a couple of clubs to do choreography. I got into one of them. And then from there, I had pitched myself to a dance studio because Shanghai is full of dance studios. That was the one thing that was really cool too, is they all wanted to dance. And that at that time, they wanted to learn like the American way of dancing. And so I think that's what kind of helped in terms of me being able to like navigate out there. One, I was Black. Two, I danced, and I was just very interesting to them. So I kind of just landed the teaching opportunity. I was subbing for one of my friends, and then I had sub class, and they liked me. They were like, "Would you want to teach here?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And then it just like it literally kept building and building. And then one of my students who took my class was actually a student that brought me into Ubisoft, where I worked for Just Dance, the video game. And so that's how I got that opportunity because she had came and taken my classes. She loved it. She thought I'd be great for that. And then from that job, I was getting other opportunities to choreograph for car shows. And like it just, I don't know, it was like this snowball effect that was happening, all while overcoming a lot of things because there was, daily lifestyle things that, we were overcoming. I had a moped there. So, overcoming traffic every day was a lot. Oh my goodness, driving there was incredible. I am so thankful I didn't get into any accidents, but they drive crazy out there. But I mean, all that to say, like, it was just me throwing myself into my passion and into opportunity. And I was just like, I have to try this. If it doesn't work out, I can always come back. And my family was really supportive of that. I did come home, like just to like reiterate, I wasn't in China for a full 8 years. And I even saw you, I think two or three times. Gosh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I could talk for hours because there's just so many memories of how like China built for me. But I think the main thing is that I just wasn't afraid to go after it and to be patient about it and to kind of learn the layout of the land, communicate a bit. I wasn't fluent in Chinese and it was very difficult to like learn I understood it better than I spoke it. And I just knew common things like money, food, bathroom, taxi. Like I knew like basic things to kind of get me around. But you know, Google Translate was a huge help there.
There's a few things that come to mind. Number one, that's the epitome of the type of guests that I love. Bold people, people that took a chance and just went after their passion. So that's why I said this is definitely the poster king of my.
Oh,
I really love that. The second thing is that I truly believe that traveling changes your thought process and changes your compassion, changes how you live, you know, what you think you really need. So do you think that your mind frame has changed from just venturing out, getting out?
Pysa, I love this question because this is just something that has forever been with me. I love this question. I think traveling, especially as you know, African American, like I think it is so imperative and it's important for us to travel. You've got to get out of like your everyday normal and you have to see things from a completely different perspective. And being over there for so long, I got to visit Thailand, I got to visit the Philippines and Hong Kong, and I got to see all these different types of like lifestyles of how people live. Going to the Philippines and seeing that a day for them of survival was a lot, selling things on the beach to tourists. You know, we're going to these beautiful cities, but meanwhile, they're doing these jobs to make money from tourists so that they can live. You really get a reality on and a perception of like, wow, like they're maintaining their own lifestyle here. They're not even worried about our problems. You know what I mean? Like there's like bigger issues, you know what I mean? And also, they're such kind people and they have such sweet hearts. The contrast of that to me was just like, wow, like it made me look at America from the outside in. And don't get me wrong, like I love our country, but like I just really was like, wow, this is really, really an amazing contrast to me. And so I think it has definitely changed my mode of thinking of just how I go about things. I mean, even with being patient, like I dial back with situations more. I try to gain more clarity on certain situations.
I actually went to the Philippines with the guy I was dating at the time. And you know what they call him? Do you know what they call him? And he light skinned too. I consider him light skinned. He does. They call him LeBron James. They were like, LeBron.
Yes.
Even close. If they would have said Obama, that would have been a little bit better.
I'm telling you, they will. You're like, I don't even. But that's the only thing they have to reference.
And they literally just like stared at me and was just like, "Wow." I remember being like, "I'm on set," because people were actually videotaping us at the beach.
No, oh, girl. I have so many examples of that. I have so many examples of that. I think as like the culture grew and there was more Black people, there was more like Shanghai was a huge melting pot of individuals. Like there was people from India, there was people from Russia, Ukraine, the Philippines. Like there was a whole community there in Shanghai, which was really, really cool. African, there was a lot of Africans in China.
Oh, wow.
There were a lot of Africans in China. And that was one of the coolest things to me because I was just like, wow, they had businesses, hair salons. I look, because listen,
Oh my God.
listen, I had to get this. I had to find our people because I was like, if I'm going to be out here for this long, they don't know how to do my hair like that. And so I need, you know, and I found people, there were Africans from like Nigeria and from all over coming to start these businesses, speaking Chinese, some speaking French. I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is such a melting pot of different cultures all in Asia that I didn't even know existed, you know?
Didn't either. This is why we say, get out, y'all, get out.
For real, get out, get out.
Never known that. Oh my gosh.
So I felt like I was a part of like this whole new wave of cultural acceptance and blending and stuff like that, which was another reason why I stayed. I had a whole community there of people. I still do. Like I still communicate with them. I check in from time to time to see how they're doing. I still have all my like contacts there with the studios and connections. That place literally has a piece of my heart. Thank you, John Woosa. I forever to this day thank him every time I see him online. Like, dude, you are the reason. Asia was not on my mind. Like on my mind in LA was like, okay, Janet, Rihanna, who's having the next audition? Chris, like I wasn't thinking about traveling. I mean, I was, but through like the LA path. And that goes back to thinking that there's more than one way. That's the other thing that I really took from being in Asia and gave me a lot of like respect for dance and the arts in general. There's so many different worlds, and not all of them have to be through Los Angeles, or not all of them have to be through dancing behind an artist. There are contracted cruise ship people. There are contracted people in Vegas, which we all know. There's opportunity overseas. I got a chance to work in Macau. My first tour that I booked in Asia brought me to my first stadium performance in America. Like I got to, not even an American job has brought me to like stadium size stage. So
Yes.
like, there's opportunity everywhere. There's so many other ways to get in to the industry, which is another reason why, again, I want to start my program here, is because I want to talk about, brand building and opportunities. I know everyone has their heart set, and especially now with social media and TikTok and stuff, like it's just one way to like get famous, and that's through LA or through New York or Atlanta. Like, but there's so many different avenues of entertainment and artistry and dance these days, and you can completely make your own. You don't have to do any of it. You can literally these days use this to create your entire career by yourself. I just say that to say I don't want anyone who is trying to go for it to get discouraged, because you can overcome that. And I'm such an example by going to Asia, into a country I had never been to, language I did not know, and was able to navigate and create some of the best experiences and book some of my best jobs being over there.
To end it up, the last part I want to hear is like post China, and like you were talking about your program. I think I saw that you graduated.
Oh yeah. Okay. Really quickly. So I was in Beijing for the last 2 years of my China journey. I stayed in Beijing. I got offered a residency contract to do artist development for upcoming K-pop artists that were coming out of China. So I was like, okay, well, I want to go back to LA. I want to try to get my like foot in the door down there again. I think I've done what I can do in China. I think I've learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot of tools that I think would be very beneficial for me in LA. But I was like, okay, well, I need to go home for a year, because being away from home, like you're away from a lot of things. So you got to re-get medical, dental, you got to like reconfigure yourself into like the world, get a cell phone, get a car, all this stuff. So I was like, okay, let me get home and stay with my family and stuff for the year. So I stayed home for a year. I got back 6 months prior to pandemic starting. So when all of that started, my plan was to only be home for the year. I was going to school for small business and entrepreneurship. I was like, I need to do something with this, because I was working so much in Asia. I got all these accolades. I was like, okay, I need to take this and create something with this, either a business or something, because now I have all this knowledge and all this like expertise that I can do back in the States. So I was going to school during all that time. Pandemic happened. I didn't go to LA. And then I was like, okay, well, everything's shut down, so I guess I'll go to school again. So I stayed in school another year, because I originally was going for a certification, which was only an 11th month thing at community college. So then I was like, well, no, I can stay longer and get my associates. And then in addition to that, they had programs for marketing communications and to learn Adobe Suite. So I was like, okay, these are all things I like to do. I was doing a lot of that in Asia. So that's how I knew I had interest in it, because that was how I got myself work. I had to make my own like flyers, make my own reels, make my own things. So like I was already creating, but I wanted to learn more about it. And so I went to school for another year, graduated just this past June. And yes, made honor society and everything.
Oh my gosh, I was so proud when I saw that.
Yeah, that was such a good moment. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I was really proud of myself. I didn't go to college directly after high school. And so like to be able to go back and actually go through something and accomplish it and, feel good about it, I was like, okay, this is great. So then after that, I had decided to stay because I was teaching here. I had started a dance team here. And also I had started my new job now, which is I am a dancer at a culinary cabaret in downtown Seattle. Wow. So it's like dinner theater. So I've been doing that in addition to having my heels team here and teaching and starting up some more ventures. There's a lot in the works at the moment. I'm just like moving around, but yeah, that's my life post Asia. I think everything I learned in Asia about business, about marketing and pushing myself, everything I learned in school to add to that really, really has helped me to be where I am like currently and what I'm doing. Yeah, I loved that whole experience. It taught me a lot about myself for sure.
You are living your purpose. You're like always just selfless and giving what you learned. A lot of people like to be stingy and like, oh, I went through all this and I'm not going to tell everybody my secrets and stuff. But instead, you're like, no, I want to help others get better. I think everybody's purpose is to help in some way. And I just love seeing you do that. And everything that you named was so passion driven. So I'm like, yeah, this is like definitely pursuing passion. You overcome in everything that you talk about. This has been really cool to hear your story and just.
That is so like, oh my gosh. I'm like so grateful and thankful, you know, and this is in a way therapeutic. Like I don't ever get to sit and reflect on my journey just because we're always on the go. A lot of times I only focus on where I'm going and you forget where you came from and what you've done and what you've accomplished. And, you know, as an entertainer, as an artist, as a performer, you know, it's always like, you're only as good as your last job, or you're only as good as your last gig. And so we constantly put that mind frame in our heads and we neglect, you know, the accomplishments that we have had. And so having this like interview with you and this conversation with you has really helped me to like kind of relive that and be like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot I've been through, and there's a lot that everyone has been through. Just constantly pushing myself to knowing that there is true purpose and that I don't have to compare myself to anyone else's journey is what's like the biggest overcoming statement I could say is like, you have to keep pushing through for your purpose. I mean, it's just incredible that I've been able to reflect on this and just feel good about myself. It's a whole journey. A whole journey. I love you, Pysa, so much. Thank you. Thank you. Let's just keep in contact via social media.
Love you, and your hair looks. I keep looking at your hair. I'm like, he has the best hair. But
oh my God, thank you. I just, you know.
Waves. Oh, wait.
I'm just, trying to get a little something. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Okay, I'll see you. Bye, love.